The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is a Harmony Data System training from Senior Disability Services, a division of Alaska's Department of Health. Today we're going to be talking about the Renewal short form. It's an introduction to how to use a short form and where to locate it within the Harmony Data System. So what is the short form? When can it be used? And where is it located? Are the topics that we'll be covering today. So the Renewal short form was originated from APK submissions that were part of the public health emergency to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. This flexibility has been made permanent in the form of a short form. So it's a more concentrated form, that a more consolidated support plan that can be submitted when no changes are occurring to services. It's a Harmony plan form and can only be accessed within the Harmony data system. For step-by-step instructions, you can refer to Chapter 8 or other plan actions within the Care Coordination T24 Harmony Guide. So let's talk about when you can use the short form. First, you have to have had a full plan submitted in order to use a short form. A full plan means that all plan services were entered, the person-centered support plan details form, which is the largest form in Harmony and has the narrative elements of a support plan, that must have been entered, and you may have needs, goals, and objectives entered within the Harmony system. You could have completed a full plan as an initial, renewal, or an amended form. If you've completed the full plan, then you are able to submit a short form. But again, it's important to remember that when you're renewing services with a short form, no changes have happened with the services since the last approved plan. The only exception is when services are being ended at renewal. They're not being continued. You can file a short form 2 renewal cycles in a row, but a full support plan is required every 3rd year, regardless of services changing or not. You'll still have to submit it. So some other considerations for limits of use. You could file a short form to SDS, but in reviewing the information, SDS may request the planning team submit a full plan. If that's the case, SDS will reach out to the care coordinator and give them ample time to coordinate with the planning teams to produce a full plan. There may also be cases where the previously approved plan notes that a full plan will be required at renewal. This information is typically located on the cover of the approved plan. So saying it another way, whenever you receive an approved plan, you should verify if there are any conditions or restrictions about submitting a short form. There are also certain services that cannot be renewed with a short form because the services are of a higher service level. Those include acuity, intensive active treatment, and specialized private duty nursing. You can locate the Harmony form by going into the consumer's record, duplicating an approved plan or previously approved plan, updating it, and adding the short form from the plan forms page. There are critical areas that you do need to prepare in Harmony in order for your short form to be accurate. That includes the demographics, diagnosis, and possibly medications from the consumer record. You'll have to select which plan to duplicate, and we'll talk more about that when we look in the Harmony data system. You'll have to update the plan information page to indicate you're submitting a short form, and you will need to update your plan services to the current renewal plan year. You'll need to make sure that your plan forms are included, which would be your short form itself and the questionnaire to your client about how services were delivered in the previous plan year. It's optional to update needs and goals, but you can do that if you wish. You can also attach that document, any updates to the short form itself. Finally, you will need to complete a plan validation check and add the PDF version of the short form with all signatures and attachments in a plan note. So that will be attached to a plan note and submitted. And then you'll have to go back to the plan status and make sure the plan status is put into a submitted status. One final concept I want to take a little bit more in-depth look at before we go into the Harmony system is regarding plan services itself. The biggest considerations you should have is that when you update plan services, that the services themselves the dates of the services are updated, that the service units are whole numbers, they don't include decimal or partial unit amounts, and that the frequency and duration text boxes are entered. At this time, the Harmony data system does not duplicate those text boxes, and so it's important for you to go into each one of the plan services and ensure that information is entered. It is possible that you might need to edit or remove services because the provider or the service was discontinued with the previous amendment, or you may have had multiple entries for the same service in a previous version of the support plan because of a rate change. And this functionality has been updated, so it's no longer required for you to enter in services multiple times with factoring in a rate change date. You can just submit or enter in one plan service for the entire plan year to cover your request. So now let's go into the Harmony data system. You see my screen has a web browser up, the Chrome web browser, and I'm currently in a test case and I'm in a consumer record, and you see that my demographics tab is currently open. I would need to make sure that my diagnosis is current and that my medications are updated if necessary. They should have been updated at application. And then from there, it's possible that assessors may have adjusted that information, and so it's not required for you to update them again. But we do like to note them because it's important that your client has a updated medications record to be referenced by emergency responders, healthcare professionals, and planning teams. So once this information is updated, move to the Plans tab, and you come across the decision of which plan should you duplicate. It may be beneficial to update the most recently approved amendment document, that or amended plan. That would have the currently active services listed within that version. And it may make sense for you to use that form to duplicate, or that support plan to duplicate. There may be other times where it would not be better to take the most recently approved plan, but instead going back a support plan or two to the previous renewal period or renewal plan and update that version. It's up to you to really make that call. I would suggest considering what are all the plan services listed and how many entries would you have to adjust when you make that decision. But it's up to you. Sometimes it's just easier to go with what was previously approved and work from there. In this case, I'm going to pick up the renewal support plan, which will be a plan back. And I'm going to open it and move to the File menu up in the top left corner and click on the Duplicate button. It tells me that the plan has been duplicated, and my plan information page opens. The first thing that I'm going to do is select the plan type of renewal short form down towards the bottom of the dropdown. I'll leave my status in draft, but I'm going to have to come back to it to submit the plan after I've completed all the other steps. Next, I'm going to put my plan start date and end date. Now I'm going to go up to the File menu and save my plan. I am prompted, do you want the plan service start and end dates to be updated to reflect the plan start and end dates? You can select yes, the plan service dates will be updated with the modified plan start date and end date, or you can select no, but I want the plan start and end dates to be updated. The plan dates will be updated, but the service dates will not be updated. Well, what's the difference? No matter what, the safe bet is no, and really all it'll do is it'll change the plan details. The plan details, start and end dates will be the same, but you're going to have to update each one of the plan services. If you select yes, this will usually work the best when you're taking a renewal plan and copying it, and there have been no changes to it previously. So going from a renewal to a renewal. That isn't the case here. I went from renewal to amendment, and now I'm going back to renewal to duplicate it again. So it would probably be best if I select no. But if I select yes, it's okay. It just won't do anything, and I'll have to make adjustments anyways. I'll just show you. So if I'll select yes and hit OK, I'll move to the Plan Services section. And I see all my services, but I can also see that the dates didn't change. So I'm going to need to update the dates. Before I would update all of my dates, I would actually go into the services and clean up any services that are ending at this time, or that if I had a provider change mid-year through an amendment, I would remove the previous provider and leave the provider that's currently serving the client. Taking those steps to clean up this record before I bulk update is going to be helpful. And to do that, all you need to do is to go into the service itself and go to the File menu and select Delete Plan Services. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to delete this service from my family. So instead, I'm going to update all these services by going to the far corner and clicking this checkbox. All of the services have been selected, and I can now move up to the File menu and click on this Bulk Update tool. I'm just confirming that my plan start date and end dates, that's what my year is, and it'll ask me, or it wants me to answer, I need to modify the plan service start and end date. That is what I want to do. If I wanted to change it, I can. And then it has my new plan start and end dates, which should match my current plan start and end dates. I'll apply my date changes. And wow, look at all of those units. They now all have decimals, which is not great, but that's okay. I needed to go into each one of them anyways because I needed to update my frequency and duration box. So we're only going to do this with one entry, but you'll get the idea. I'm going to have to go in and I'll navigate down to the total units, and I'm going to have to clear it of these decimals. From there, I'm going to scroll down to the weekly frequency and duration. What is that again? It's how often is the service delivered and for how long. All the rest of the information will probably be the same, but if you need to make minor adjustments, you can. I would pay particular interest to the conflict of interest questions and verifying that if there have been any changes to natural supports, and it may impact these questions about providers residing with the client or related to the client. Just take time to identify that information if necessary. But if it's all the same, you're good to go up to the File menu and save and close the plan service. Now I'm going to navigate to the plan forms, and I have my person-centered support plan details form. I want to keep carrying this over. It's one of the big reasons why I duplicate a previous plan, because this is all the narrative that I've entered in one of my full plans. I also see that there's a questionnaire here from my previously approved plan. It's okay, just leave it in there. A reviewer will remove it when they come through and review your plan. But you will need to add a new questionnaire form based on the answers your client gave on their printed version and that you saved to your records. I'm not going to be submitting the questionnaire or entering the questionnaire for you today. Instead, I'm just going to focus on the short form itself. To do that, we're going to go to the Add Plan Forms, File menu, Add Plan Forms, and it opens up this new window where I select a form. I'm going to choose the very last entry, Support Plan Renewal Form. And this populates the form for me to complete. From here, I'll select Cycle, Renewal, and I'm going to put the start date as the planned start date. And we'll select the program. If you have CFC as an option and waiver as an option, a waiver program, always select the waiver program itself. You'll leave the status in draft. You can submit it at the end, but it's not imperative. You can just leave it in draft at all times because you will print this version out and circulate it. And if you need to go back and change anything, it helps to leave this in draft. So we went through a lot of the specific terms of use regarding the support plan, but the instructions that you see at the top, go over it again. The big one is that there are no changes to services, okay? And it defines that every third year, regardless of changes, a full plan may need to be submitted, will need to be submitted. Now we look at we need to enter in some dates. What was the last full support plan start date and end date? So in this case, my previous renewal was a full plan, so I'll put in that information for 2022. And then I'm going to put in my start date for 2023 for this current plan. We come to the first question. Are there any changes to the services being requested? If you select yes, it prompts you that you need to stop and a full plan is required. But if you're selecting no, you'll see that 6 additional questions populate that you'll need to address. Depending on what you select, you'll have different boxes open up. The first question is, have there been any changes to the recipient's demographics, yes or no? If yes, you will need to give some context. It's going to ask you to briefly describe the changes from the last plan year and ensure that the consumer record has been updated. So in our case, let's just pretend that our address was updated because the client moved. Record is current. You can move from there to question 3. Has the care coordinator reviewed the emergency response plan with the recipient or guardian? You'll have 2 choices, yes or no. In selecting no, it's a reminder to stop here and make sure that you take that action before you submit the support plan. And selecting yes, you can move forward. Remember, it's important to ensure that every Alaskan that is a part of that receives waiver services has an emergency response plan that's customized to their specific needs. Question 4, have there been any changes to the recipient's behavioral health in the last year? In selecting no, you would be able to move forward. But in selecting yes, we do need some information. Specifically, how has the behavior or health changed? And address why the current service level is still sufficient for the person's needs. You can write as much as you need to within this box, but if it isn't enough room, you can always attach additional pages to the PDF version of this form. Has the recipient's personal goal changed? Again, it's a yes or no. If it's a yes, you'll be asked to provide the new personal goal. If it's a no, you can leave it as is. Number 6 is, have there been changes to the recipient's non-waiver supports and services in the last year? When we say non-waiver supports, this could include natural support, such as family or friends. It could be community support, such as church or charity, like social organizations, or it could be other federal support, such as Veterans Affairs or tribal health consortiums. If you select yes, you're going to have to describe how those supports have changed in the past year and why the current services still meet the person's needs. And again, you can attach an additional page if more information is needed. If the answer is no, you can move forward to question 7, where we're asked, are the habilitative goal objectives changing? Are they new, revised, or removed? If your client doesn't receive habilitative services, you can select non-applicable or NA. If you select no, you're confirming that there have been no changes and there's no duplication of services between the HAB service and other services that might be provided to meet a similar need at a similar time. If you're selecting yes, that the changes have been made, then you're going to need to provide some additional information on the service, on if how the service has changed, if it's been new, revised, or removed goal, objective, intervention, and make sure that it's documented. It would be appropriate for you to take the common practice of updating that information with the planning team and having everyone sign and include it in file records. In this case, you would be attaching that document to the short form as an attachment. At the end, we come to our signature and acknowledgement block. This is where you'll type in the name of the person, their legal representative if they have them, the care coordinator, and then your agency representatives. We'll then navigate back up to the top of the form and hit File, Save Plan. In saving your form, the word merge menu opens up and you can click on the word merge to get a preview window of the form itself. You can print a PDF by selecting the download button over here, or you can select the print PDF printer, or you can select the download button to receive this document as a PDF. But it's also possible for you to receive this as a forced download as a Word version. We do recommend leveraging your Adobe features so that you have a PDF version that can be circulated for signatures. Once you've done that, circulated the short form for signatures, you're going to navigate back to your plan and you can see this needs to be updated. There's my short form. Sometimes that happens in Harmony. You just have to click on the table for it to update, for it to show. You can update your needs and goals if you'd like to in the Harmony data system, but again, it would be appropriate for you to attach those changes in to the PDF version of the short form. From here, you would navigate to the plan notes, and your instructions show you how to select the appropriate note, which would be a plan note, plan attachment, and attach the short form to the note. You'd navigate as final steps to go up to the plan information page. You should save and validate your plan as part of your process in preparing for signature, making sure that if there are reasons that you're ignoring plan validation rules, that you indicate them. You can always pull the plan validation report from the reports section. You also have the option of pulling the overview, the cost of support plan overview, or cost of the ISW overview of plan services as a planning tool, but please don't attach it to the plan note. That final version of the overview is going to be distributed to the planning team with the final approved plan. So after you've taken all of the necessary steps, which are detailed step by step within the Harmony Guide, your final step will be to make sure that you set this to submitted and save your plan. So final thoughts, there's limited use for the short form, but when in doubt, please ask for help. We can work with you on specific cases and figure out which would be the best form for you to duplicate, or if this case would be applicable for a short form. You can reach out to the training unit at sds@alaska.gov or care coordination support at alaska.gov. Join us at some of our office hours held on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or set up a one-on-one session with care coordination support. We're happy to help you because helping you is helping Alaskans. Thank you.